We're about to roll the video of John Kerr, but I hope he doesn't mind me taking a moment to introduce him in the right way. John Kerr's work is legendary. His work has touched many of your lives. If you're in the Hall of Fame, certainly he's taken pictures of you. But he's a guy. That's the part you want to know about. And I stumbled into the bathroom, and there was John Kerr with two right shoes. So he did not get off on the right foot at the Hall of Fame tonight. So I just wanted you to know that he's an awesome guy. And I'm having so much fun with that, and I hope he doesn't mind. Let's roll the video for the next inductee, Mr. John Kerr.
All right. That one defining moment. The year was 1978, and New Jersey native John Kerr was in the early stages of chasing his dream of becoming a staff photographer for Surfer magazine. But a chance encounter on the sands of Malibu Beach started with a compliment about his telephoto lens and introduced him to a surfer named Mike Aguirre. It just so happened that Mike was the editor of a brand new BMX magazine called BMX Plus, and that brief meeting led to a part-time darkroom job. That darkroom job eventually led to shooting BMX races. By the 80s, John would become editor of BMX Plus, which eventually led to a lifelong career of shooting photos for high-torque publications and their numerous action-titled magazines. When it comes to singling out the most memorable images in BMX, you can count on one hand the people who've had their fingers on the shutter button. And John Kerr is partly responsible for making almost every Hall of Famer here tonight more famous through his photography and stories. Would you please welcome your 2014 industry inductee into the BMX Hall of Fame, John Kerr.
Well, there's a big crowd here tonight, and I have an interesting thing to say here. First of all, it's nice to be here, and I want to thank USA BMX for having me here and giving me this honor. This is really truly something special. One of the things, I generally don't like to have my picture taken. I don't usually look good in pictures, so I'm much happier being behind the camera than being in front of it and being in front of a crowd, but it kind of goes with the territory when you get inducted to the Hall of Fame that you have to kind of stand up here and talk to a lot of people. A lot of people here, wow. Oh, one of my friends, I think it was Brian Skura, wanted me to ask the people who I took pictures of in their careers to stand up. He thought it'd be interesting. Is that possible? Could the people who I photographed stand up for just a second? Well, there are a lot of you guys out here. Well, cool. Yeah. That was the thing that everybody would tease me about. I would always say, could you do that again? Let me get that one more time. Because I would go out with, these guys were the best riders in the world, no doubt about it. I was shooting the greatest talents in the world. And they would do these incredible jumps, they'd do these incredible berm shots, and I'd go, I don't know if that was the best they're capable of or not, And like me, I was a skateboarder when I was growing up, a skateboarder and a surfer. And I mean, sometimes I'd do things well, and sometimes I'd do things really well, sometimes I'd do things badly. So I'd want to give them a couple of shots just in case they could do it even better than they did the first time. And I don't know what they thought. They probably thought I didn't think it was good enough, but I would go, that was fantastic. And if that's just their warm-up ride, who knows what's going to happen next, They're going to do a backflip or something like that, Which reminds me, I did actually get to shoot Jose Yanez doing backflips in the Ringling Brothers Circus back, I forget, 1983, 84, something like that. Incredible stuff. I remember back when I first started shooting for BMX Plus. It was true, I met Mike on the beach in Malibu. He was out surfing, and I was shooting surf photos back then, trying to get a job at Surfer magazine. And he wanted to come in and talk about my lens and see what kind of camera I was using. And he mentioned along the way that he worked at a magazine called BMX Plus, and they needed a darkroom guy. And I had just spent 2 summers before that being a motocross photographer in New Jersey. One of my friends from high school, a guy in my German, he was in my brother's class, but we shared a German class in high school together. And he started the first motocross track in New Jersey. So he knew me through my brother and from being in a German class with me. And he asked me if I could take pictures at his motocross track because he wanted to start this, he wanted to start the motocross. He was just building the motocross track at that time. And he wanted me to shoot photos there. So I went out and shot photos, and I got hired to do the photography and darkroom work at this motocross track. And I did that for 2 summers. And here I moved to California hoping to get a job at Surfer Magazine. And Mike Aguirre tells me he works for this BMX magazine. He's the publisher, co-publisher with a guy named Jim Stevens. And I went in for an interview, and they hired me. I was like, well, this is cool. I think I was making $4 an hour. It was about 20 hours a week. It was a part-time job. Might have been 4. Yeah, I was overpaid at the time. But back then, I think I was making probably $100 to $200 a month as a freelance photographer, shooting surf photos and writing articles for Surfer Magazine and shooting some ads. But I was like, cool, I get to be a photographer for a magazine. So I started working for BMX Plus, and then it was probably about, I don't know what month it was, I noticed that they spelled my name wrong in the staff list. First they spelled my name wrong when they said they hired me. They surprised me with like a full-page thing, like, we hired this guy, you know? And I'm like, oh, they spelled my name wrong, you know? So maybe that was one of the reasons why I was very conscientious about trying to spell other people's names right in the magazine. Not wrong, but right. But about 2 months into working there, I started saying, can I proofread some of these stories before they go to print? Because there needs to be some proofreading here. You know, we got some spelling mistakes and some grammar, and people's names are misspelled, including my own. My own was spelled wrong 3 months in a row in the magazine, I think, in the masthead, before it finally got corrected. It was like, oh, this isn't so good, you know. But anyway, I managed to work there for 10 straight years at BMX Plus. I remember I went to the first BMX race at Devonshire Downs, and Mike was the main photographer, and he was the main writer there. And Bob Hadley came along as the editor. I don't remember exactly when Bob took over as the editor, but it was probably in that first year there. He was one of the guys who worked on the magazine, but he came on full time. And I went to the first BMX race I went to at Devonshire Downs, and it was like, wow, these guys are amazing. These guys can ride bikes like nobody's business, you know? And when I was a kid, I was the worst bike rider in my neighborhood. I don't think I could ride a bike without training wheels until I was like 10 years old. I was pathetic. It's like, what am I doing becoming the editor of BMX Plus magazine? I'm like the worst bike rider ever. But it was funny. I used to try to do tricks on a bike. Once I learned how to ride, I tried doing like freestyle tricks before there was such a sport. Back when I was 13 years old, I was trying to do tricks, and they were the lamest tricks anybody ever did, probably. I would try to lie on the seat of my bike and ride down the street, you know, like totally prone, like a Superman, only not 10 feet off the ground like the good guys could do it later. My Superman was like the lamest Superman ever, you know? But I mean, this was a guy who was riding training wheels till he was like 10 years old. I probably shouldn't reveal that. I didn't think I would, but I go, well, hell, what the heck, I'll just say it, you know? And I never learned to do a wheelie on a bike, you know. I learned to do one freestyle trick, I think, when I was working at BMX Plus. I can't even remember the name of it, but somebody shot a photo of me doing it, and I used it in Inside Scoop for a few years, and it was pretty funny. Oh my gosh, I'm running out of time up here. Good heavens. I don't know how long this is going to last. I brought up all these pages of notes. When Gork told me they were going to induct me into the Hall of Fame, I had mixed feelings. First was, this is cool, what a great honor. And then next I thought, oh no, I'm going to have to make a speech. Oh no, what am I going to talk about? And anyway, Gork sent me a thing with the information that he thought he knew about me. And I was like, oh, that's not right. That's not right. That's not right. I was like, I got to write Gork a letter to get this straightened out. So I started writing this letter to tell him what the deal was, you know, and what the real facts were about how I got hired and whatnot. And I wrote this letter, and I went into my whole history and shooting photos of, you know, guys like Eddie King and Charles Townsend Greg Hill, Stu Thompson, Eddie Fiola, all these guys, Mike Dominguez, Matt Hoffman. I used to go to Matt Hoffman's house at Thanksgiving, and hang out with his family there on Thanksgiving weekend because he lived right near the ABA Grands, it was awesome getting to do this stuff, It was such a pleasure and such an honor to get to be a part of this sport. And I used to marvel at how great this sport was. I used to think this is probably the greatest sport ever invented for kids. I said there was so much. There was so much to this sport I appreciated. I would see kids and their families out there, and I would see the kids' dads teaching the kids, how to work on the bikes and stuff like that, and the kids' moms would be bringing sandwiches, and the parents would get to be friends, and it brought families together, and it was really powerful. What a great environment this was. And I used to think, this is phenomenal, and I was truly honored to be a part of this sport. And it was really cool to be able to document it, I took up photography, trying to be a surf photographer. And then I started working for BMX Plus, and I was there about 2 years, I think, when the publisher of Surfer Magazine called me up to tell me that the job I wanted there was available. And he wanted to know if I could recommend anybody, knowing that that was the job I wanted. And I didn't want to leave BMX Plus. I recommended this other guy that they were thinking about hiring. I said, you should hire Jeff Devine. He's really good. He's been shooting for you for years. And I didn't want to leave BMX Plus. I liked this sport. I liked doing the magazine. And at the time, there weren't too many people back then who could shoot and write photos, so I decided I'd stay and stay and keep the magazine, number one, and try to. It wasn't quite number one yet. I think it became number one not too long after that. I don't remember exactly, but it's been an honor. Oh, and there's one other thing. The thing is blinking up here. Apparently, I've expended my 10 minutes. So, man, I didn't even look at my notes. I don't know what else I have on here, but I do want to say. There's one thing. I became a Christian a few years ago, so I hope you'll excuse me for saying this, but there's some story in the Bible about some guy who received this big honor. It was a king, and everybody was honoring him. And then he took all this glory upon himself, and he didn't give God the glory. So God struck the guy down dead on the spot, and his body was eaten by worms. So to forestall that possibility, if you'll let me use a big word like forestall, I want to thank God for giving me the opportunity to be here, and I just want to say it's been a pleasure and an honor to be working with this group of people, and everybody behind the scenes, the scorekeepers. I used to go to the rooms of the people who were putting on the races, like the head of the ABA or the head of the NBL, these people, the scorekeepers, and I used to write down the results onto a pad of paper at like 10 o'clock at night so I could get them in the magazine, typeset them, get them ready the next day or whatever. Anyway, I better go. Time's up. I didn't even read my notes, but it's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you.